Today we're going to be doing a review on the movie A Face to Die For. This is another 90s movie that I remember, but sad to say, I don't remember it being this cheesy, but let's get into it. So the movie starts with a father and daughter in a car, and it's like pouring down raining outside. And the little girl is playing with her doll, and it goes flying into the back seat because she's in the front seat with her dad. And she reaches back to get it, and he's like, he turned around, I guess, to help her get the doll. And next thing we know, they're crashing into an 18 wheeler. And then we have, like, it just springs forward because it's just like we get that, and then we're inside of an antique shop of a older man who runs it, and one of his customers is talking about the assistant that he has, and she says, I don't see why you still have her, because she has a big scar on her face, but she keeps it hidden by her hair. And she just helps him out by pulling the things that people come in to buy and collecting the money. And she's also a costume designer, and she lives with her mom and her sister because obviously the dad died after the accident, and it just left her with this like hideous scar on the left side of her face. So one day at work, she meets a delivery guy by the name of Alec. And, he's interested in her drawings and in her costume designs. And he shows up to the play that she's working on. And then he takes her on a date after. And, it's just a whirlwind romance, if you will. And it's just like, he becomes her first lover, first boyfriend, first kiss, first everything. And he asks her to marry him, and she says yes. And one night while they're out walking, he gets beat up because he owes a gambling debt. And she tries to help him out, like, how much is it, how much do you need? And he's like, there's no way that you can help me, and I should leave town. But she begs him to stay, and she's like, I'll help you get the money somehow. And he brings up the guy that she works for and says, he keeps a lot of money in that safe, because when she was helping out the woman from the other day, like, you can see her open the safe and put the money in there. So I guess it's a known fact where the safe is. And she agrees, to take the money from the safe, and they plan on running away together. But while they're there, the man had left for the night, but I guess he realized he forgot something. So he came back. And when he came back, he heard a noise. And she had disarmed the alarm. And when he heard the noise, he armed it back. And he sees her face and realizes that it's her stealing from him. And he has a heart attack. Alex leaves, but she stays because, she feels bad. She's not the type of person to actually do anything wrong. So she ends up going to prison. And, while she's in there, she's getting bullied by this girl, like these two other inmates who I guess they're just bored, so they're messing with her. And her bunkmate, Emily's bunkmate, is Robin Givens, whose character's name is Claudia. So, and Robin saves her from getting jumped one day while they're doing laundry. And she tells the girls who's picking on her, she's like, leave her alone, because, I can make your life a living hell. So it's like she's kind of like the badass in the prison or whatever. Emily's mom comes to visit and tells her that her sister ran off with some boy that she's known for months. And she pulls a picture out of her purse and like holds it up to the glass. It's Alec. So Emily believes, like they set her up, to ruin her life anyway. And she thinks her mom knew about it this whole time. So after that, when she goes back inside of the jail, she gets into a fight with the girl who's been picking on her because she's basically, like in her feelings at this point. But the girl beats her up so bad that she has to be seen by the doctor. The doctor is a surgeon who just so happens to be filling in for the regular doctor. And he offers her a free surgery to fix her face, and free of cost because he said it involves new technology, like including a laser. So she agrees, and he's like sends for her to come to this retreat. What do you call it nowadays? Like those wellness centers after people have surgery. It's something like that. He buys her new clothes, takes her out, just talking to her. Cause before he even did the surgery, he said something along the lines of, "I can fix your face, but I can't fix your self esteem," or something like that. Because of course, with the scar on her face after all those years, I'm pretty sure people, weren't nice to her. So of course she would basically down herself before anybody else would have the chance to. So after 6 operations, there's a unveiling of her face, and she looks amazing. No one can recognize her. Claudia comes to visit her, and they're just having fun in the, I'm just going to call it a wellness center. And, like I said, he's buying her stuff, giving her jewelry. It's amazing. Like her life is brand new. And he admits that he's falling in love with her. And one night they're having a charity event that he puts on in his wife who died. He puts it on in her name. And he proposes and she accepts. There is a woman who was interested in the doctor, but it never really went anywhere. So she takes Emily to the doctor's office to show her a huge painting of his dead wife that he keeps in his office. And this woman looks just like Emily. And so she believes that he did the surgery to turn her into his late wife. So she goes downstairs, causing a huge scene. And she's like, "You just want me to replace your wife, and that's not who I am." And she rips the necklace off of her neck and throws it at him. And her and Claudia leaves. And she promises to get revenge on everybody who's done her wrong. So I forgot where they were, but I believe they went back to LA. And she changes her name to Adrienne Corday. And she gets a job as a designer through a man she met through the doctor one night they went to the opera. So she's made a name for herself. She's the Adrienne Corday. Everybody knows her. They want to work with her. And she meets up with an old friend that she used to work with back when she did the plays, named Paul. And while they're talking, Paul keeps talking about this woman that he used to work with, which of course is her. But with her new surgery, she's nobody can tell that she's Emily. And of course she's going by Adrienne. So Adrienne with this gorgeous face and I guess like new body, she's a completely different person. But she can see that he liked her for who she was before she became Adrienne. He liked Emily. So while she's accepting some award, she sees Alec out in the crowd. And so she plans on, reeling him in back to her because he's basically number one on her list of get back. And, they flirt and she walks away from him and goes with Paul. But Paul noticed her like flirting with Alec, and I'm pretty sure he remembers him from those years ago. And he asks her about him, like, is he somebody important? But she swears that he's nobody. So Adrian tells Claudia that she wants to pretend to need some money and get Alec to get in on a scheme that could possibly get him killed by the gang he's involved in when they realize that they basically there's no scheme involved, like they basically just gave away their money. And so while they're in a club dancing together, Claudia comes up and tells her, like, Adrian, I need to talk to you. We really need to get this situation handled right now. And so, of course, they talk about it in front of him. And then she comes back and, like, I'm sorry, that's just some business that I had to handle. And of course, he's intrigued. But before they can talk about it further, her sister shows up. And she shows up drunk. She's actually Alec's wife, and she doesn't recognize her sister either. She's just like, did he tell you I'm his wife? Did he tell you that? And I'm just baffled because of course, as you're watching the movie, you're like, you can tell that it's her. I guess back in the '90s they couldn't do a good job with makeup and like, what am I trying to say? Yeah, like makeup and costume, because it's just like you can tell that that's the same person. Her face didn't change so drastically that nobody knows that this is her, but we're just supposed to go along with it. So one day, Paul shows up to take Adrian to lunch, but she's actually out. Like Claudia has to cover for her, and she goes to her sister's house, and her sister's still just thinking like, "Oh, you're that designer," and Adrian has to tell her some story about a doll back when they were little kids that I guess only they would know, and then Sheila recognizes that she's actually her sister. Oh, excuse me. Sheila's being abused by Alec. He's punching her all around. And she has like, I think there was a bruise on the side of her mouth. So like he hit her in the face. And Adrian tells her, like, come to the studio, come with me. You don't have to put up with this anymore. So while Sheila's packing, Alec comes home and jumps on her because he thinks that she's had another man in the house because he saw two wine glasses in the kitchen. But Sheila tells him that it was actually Emily. So Alex shows up to the studio knowing that it's her. And he's really like blackmailing her, saying, I know that you're really Emily instead of this Adrian person that you're pretending to be. And he wants in on the quote unquote investment. He throws her down like on the table and is feeling on her, saying, like, I was your first. And it almost looks like an attempted rape, but she grabs a pair of scissors and manages to get him off of her and tells him, what, you're in, meet me at this hotel. And, like we'll figure it out then, bring the money or whatever. So Paul asks her to meet him at the old play studio or whatever, like whatever it's called, and asks her to let him in, like let me help you with whatever's bothering you. She claims to be fine, so he gets upset and he walks out. So she's looking in the mirror at herself and like sees the makeup back there, and she like puts makeup on her face to make herself look like her old self again, like with the scars and stuff on the left side of her face. So when Alex gets there, like he sees her and he's like, what is this? Why do you look like that now? And she pulls out a gun. Now, at first I'm assuming it's a real gun, but when he takes it from her, he realizes that it's a prop gun. So he starts to, jump on her. But Sheila shows up with a real gun. And so when he like walks towards her to get it from her, she actually shoots him and he falls into the glass table. So Adrian tells her sister, go home, pretend you were never here, you don't know anything about this. And she wipes off the makeup, so now she looks like Adrian again. and puts on different clothes. So when she goes down to the front desk, because the police are there and, like it's a scene, she asks the front desk guy, like what's going on, which is the same guy who checked her in, like while she had the makeup on her face. And he's like, there was a woman here, but she managed to escape. But I remember what she looked like. I'd never forget that face. And it's like, but you're looking directly into that face. Those scars are painted on scars. Were not that different for you to not realize that you were talking to the same person that you checked in maybe an hour ago. But Paul shows up apologizing for leaving and being upset. And Adrian asks, can they start over? And they agree and kiss. And it's beautiful. We've made up. And they're in the car driving in the rain. And Adrian tells Paul that she has to tell him something. And he says, whatever it is, he probably already knows. And like grabs her hand and kisses her hand. And that's how it ends. And Lifetime movies, they're good for a callback. It's like however the movie started, pretty sure that's how the movie's gonna end. And it's just like we couldn't end on a different note. Like we're literally driving in the rain all over again. Are they gonna die just like how her dad died in the beginning? But anyway, that was this short review. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Have a wonderful day or night whenever you're listening. Peace.